What's going on, MMA fans? Sorry I haven't put this up earlier. It's just been a really busy week for the UFC Fight Night, Stevens versus Joe Lauzon. My picks are in. Let's see what I got going on here. For the first fight of the night on the televised card, we got Luigi Fioravanti versus Anthony Johnson. Fioravanti, I'll just call him Luigi, is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but that really doesn't show his capabilities. He's a better fighter than that. He's just gotten in a situation where the UFC has started to pit him against the up-and-coming rising guys. So he's faced some pretty stiff competition in his last 5 fights. He's pretty versed fighter. He's pretty aggressive too. He's got a solid chin, as it showed against Diego Sanchez, where Diego was just the ultimately quicker fighter without a doubt. He was more technical with his boxing and his strikes, and basically just picked Luigi apart for 3 rounds, forcing the TKO in the 3rd round. Like I said, he's faced some pretty stiff competition in the UFC, so I'm not going to hold his 2-3 record against him, because he is a better fighter than 2-3 in the UFC in his last 5 fights. As far as Anthony Johnson goes, he is enormous for a 170-pounder. He's 6'2" and cuts down to 170. I don't know how these guys do it. I really don't. Along with that, he's very athletic in his boxing and his strikes. His boxing is very, very good. His hands are very quick. He also, which is also good because he comes from a wrestling background, so if he ever gets in trouble, he's proved that he can take people down if he wants to. He's also been working on his kicks with Kun Lee there in San Jose, which showed in the last Kevin Burns fight, which was one of the best KOs within the last couple months by far. Like I said, he's got very good hands. He's also got a pretty good chin. Kevin Burns was able to tag him a couple times and never really looked like Anthony Johnson was hurt that much. But there still is a question mark about him, is that we haven't really seen him off his back that much. He was submitted by Rich Clementi by a rear naked choke, I believe it was. He was still young to the game. Everybody knows you improve all the time if you practice, and that fight was a couple of years ago. So I'd really like to see him work off his back to see if he's improved his jiu-jitsu. With that being said, I'm going to have to go with Anthony Johnson in this fight via ground and pound. Either that, or we could always get the head kick flash knockout again, because Luigi is only about 5'8", 5'9", so Johnson really doesn't have to kick that high. So I'm going to go with Anthony Johnson on that one. Josh Neer, Mac Danzig is a very, very good matchup, I think. It's going to be a very exciting fight. Josh Neer was very impressive to me against Nate Diaz. It was really the first time that I had ever seen him fight. After that fight, I went and watched a couple more videos. The guy's good. He's very solid. He's also been in there with some really stiff competition, just like Luigi has. And he also has wins under his belt against Joe Stevenson and Dean Thomas, who are no slouches themselves. I think Dean Thomas is supremely underrated in his skills, and Joe Stevenson just fought for a title less than a year ago. Against Mac Danzig, you know, he's the Ultimate Fighter winner from a couple seasons ago. He's stepping up in competition again, just like he did against Clay Guida. He didn't pass the Clay Guida test, but also in the Clay Guida fight, I did notice that his striking was vastly improved from when you saw him evolve his game on Ultimate Fighter. He also has very good submissions, as all of his wins on the Ultimate Fighter came via submission. In the Clay Guida fight, though, he just, as Clay Guida does to everybody, he just wears everybody out, so I really don't hold that against him. I don't think it questions his cardio. Clay Guida is just a freak when it comes to cardio, and he totally just wore him out, and you could visibly see it on his face during the fight that he was frustrated. It was like a gnat that was just flying around him at a baseball game or something like that, and he was just trying to swat it to get him to leave him alone so he could create some space, and he was never able to create any space against Guida, and he wasn't able to out-wrestle him. With that being said, with all the trouble that Josh Neer has been with the law, I respect him as a fighter. I hope everything turns out okay with that, but I'm going to have to go with Mac Danzig on this one via decision, probably split decision. I think it's going to be. I think that could be fight of the night, possibly. Cain Velasquez versus Denis Stanosic, Denis Stojnik. I think that's how it's. I don't really know how to say his name. I'm not good with pronunciations, but Cain is coming. He's coming in undefeated. Everybody knows he's an exceptional wrestler. I haven't seen him in a while though. He's had a bit of a layoff. He did have a little bit of dispute with the UFC, as a couple of the AKA fighters have. And being AKA trained, he trains with a lot of really good fighters. They're one of the best teams in the world. They're right up there with American Top Team, Extreme Couture, Team Quest, all those. They're all within the same argument. As far as Dennis, he is a Sambo black belt and has a karate background as well. Will his Sambo be able to counter Cain's wrestling? I don't think so. I think Cain is going to do what he always does, and that's take him down and ground and pound him. Working with AKA, his striking has improved, as a lot of people's there has, because a lot of fighters who were in AKA started out as wrestlers. Josh Koscheck, John Fitch, and they've all improved their striking. But Dennis's favorite moves are the arm triangle and his big left hook. So we'll see where that goes. But I think Cain Velasquez is going to ground and pound him in round 2. To the main event, Joe Lauzon versus Jeremy Stephens. I was kind of disappointed that Hermes Franca had to bow out on this one. I hope he gets better. Hermes, get well, my friend. ACL is no joke. I know people that have blown both of them, and they've never been the same. But hopefully he can get some good physical therapy and the surgery goes well and everything. And I hope to see you back. But as far as this fight goes, J-Lau, as he prefers to be called, he's very well-rounded. He's 4-1 in the UFC. His only losses come to Kenny Florian, and I actually thought he won that first round against Kenny Florian. It was very surprising to me how aggressive he came out. He's got good submissions, and not a single one of his fights, his 5 fights in the UFC, has gone to a decision. So that usually means he's an exciting fighter, and I think he is. Jeremy Stephens, he's got very powerful hands for a 155er. He was losing to Dos Anjos before he came back with that unbelievable knockout combination in UFC 91, I believe it was. And he is 3-2 in the UFC, but he's been involved in some exciting fights as well. The Spencer Fisher fight was fantastic. That was an awesome fight. And I actually remember he's actually improved a lot since his UFC debut when he lost to Dean Thomas. And for the main event, I'm going to have to go with Joe Lauzon. I think he's going to get him down on the ground and submit him. I think his jiu-jitsu is better than Stephens. Stephens can be baited into a slugfest, which I think would work out for Lauzon because he doesn't lose his head, and because he's very experienced. And I'm going to go with Joe Lauzon via, I'll say, 3rd round submission. So there are my fights on UFC Fight Night, Stephens versus Lauzon. I'll keep the videos coming if you guys want me to. Hope to hear from you guys. Have a good one.